So welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be potting on some of my seedlings, and in particular I'm going to be emphasising on ones that are a little bit leggy. Now it happens from time to time, unless they're really dreadful, you don't ever give up, you just repot them on and hope for the best really. Now some of mine are really not too bad at all and I'm not concerned at all about them, but I'm still going to pot them on. Some of them on the other hand are a little bit too leggy and they're limping over, so it's kind of like twist or bust at this stage. So if I just go through what I've got, and then I'm going to show you how I transplant, and then I'm going to show you what they look like after I've transplanted them. So I've got my dwarf curly kale over here. So they look to me actually perfectly okay, a little bit leggy but nothing major, so I will be potting those on. My tomatoes, again, they often do get a little bit leggy when you first get them planted, and if I'm honest I should have transplanted those a little bit sooner, but that's fine. Leeks you don't transplant, so I just wanted to emphasise a few things that you don't. So leeks, I sowed those direct into that pot and they will stay in there until I sow them straight into the ground in about June time, so I'm not going to be doing anything with those. If you started leeks off, they should be perfectly okay to leave. My basil as well, I think that's still okay. I might transplant it into some smaller pots at some point, but I'm going to leave that for the time being. I'm happy for that to grow on like that. I've got some more tomatoes which I'm going to be planting on, and the thing that really has got a little bit too leggy are my broccolis and my chard. So those are the ones that have got really leggy, and those are the ones that are going to be a real challenge for me to pot on. But I'm going to take you through the process and show you what I'm doing to try and make the best of what I've got. So I started repotting on my seedlings, and the ones I started with first were the broccoli, which were one of the more challenging ones because they were really leggy, and I actually surprised myself. As you can see, I've potted those on, and those are them there. And these are what they did look like, and I think you'll agree, it's nothing short of a miracle. So when you start anything off and you think, oh no, they're ruined, do you know what, just give them a chance. You don't know they're ruined unless you've given them a good chance. So I've done 2 trays, so I've got a dozen now of those broccolis. I'm probably going to try and pot up another tray, so I've got some backups just in case all those don't take, but I only really want a dozen in the garden. So the next one I'm going to do are going to be the tomatoes, so I'm going to demonstrate this one so you know how I did the process. So what I've done is I've got my compost mix here, which is half multi-purpose and half core. So what you do is you put your compost into the pot like so. Because they're a little bit leggy, and even when you do any seeds really, the best way to do it is then just to move all the compost to the side so you can drop the leggy plant into it. Can you see? Just like that. So it's really important that you get it down really deep, and that you don't damage the stalk when you're planting these on. So I'm going to pop that on its side like so. I've got this lovely little tiny implement here, like a little tiny trowel, which is really handy. But if you've not got this, something like a butter knife can work just as well, but this is really useful. So what you want to do is you want to get one of the tomatoes and you want to loosen it out of the soil, being really careful, really careful not to damage the stalk. So that's why it's really handy to use that. And if you're going to handle it at all, you touch the leaves at the top. You do not touch the stalk. If you damage the stalk in any way and you break the stalk, the chance of it surviving is really unlikely. So if nothing else, do not touch the stalk is what you've got to remember. So this tool, I just slide it down, and if you had a butter knife, you would do exactly the same thing. Gently ease it off, and then, like I said, if you're going to touch anything, you touch the leaf. So then I'm going to get the compost, and then just backfill, like so. See, just making sure that you don't damage the stalk. Now, best will in the world, you are going to damage the stalk on the odd ones, and you can try potting them on, but the chance of them surviving is really unlikely. But if you haven't got many, and that's all you've got, you've just got to do the best you can. Because I break stalks when I was doing those other ones. There's some in there that I knocked, you know, you can't, it's difficult. When they get too leggy, they tangle. It's really easy to damage them. And then just gently push it down. As you can see, I don't have a leggy tomato plant anymore. And then of course all you've got to do is then obviously remember to water them. Now unlike when you do your seeds and you water the tray and it all has to soak up, you can actually start watering from the top now. And it is obviously really important that you water after you've transplanted any seedlings, because obviously they won't survive. Seems obvious, but one of the things that we all forget from time to time is to water things. One thing you must remember when you're potting on seedlings, although you want to water them, don't overwater them, because that can cause problems and that can kill the plant off. So while you must keep, you know, obviously your seedlings watered, you mustn't overwater them. Now I'm going to move on to the kales, and I'll show you what they look like once I've potted them on. So as you can see, I've got a lot of these seedlings potted on. I just wanted to show you how I've done the kales slightly differently. I've got them in much smaller module trays, and they're not even really that leggy at all. So I do them differently because you haven't got the problem with the fact that they've got such long stems on them. So the way I do it is I use the bottom of the tool I've got here. Again, like I said, if you haven't got one of these, use a butter knife. I really waggle it down deep into the I'll move this over so you can see. Really waggle it down deep into there so it virtually goes right down to the bottom. And then I just gently lift out one of these seedlings. Now some of mine actually are still quite tiny. I've picked out all the bigger ones, so I've only got a few of the larger ones left. And I'm generally lifting out the larger ones here today, not the smaller ones. So this is a little bit fiddly. So there we go, I've managed to lift out 2 in one go. We'll go for the one that I was aiming for, and you just drop it down in like so. Look, it just drops in really easily. And again, be mindful not to damage the stem, so just gently poke it around with that tool, and that's a really easy way of potting seedlings on, so like that. So waggle it around nice and deep. Then the other one that came out with it, drop it right down. You can very gently touch it with the tool, but like I said, be very, very careful you don't damage the actual plant itself, and then gently push it around with your fingers. There we go. So I've got a couple more to do, but basically that's everything that I've got potted on for now. I've run out of compost, so I've got to mix some more up. I probably will do a few more, but like I said, don't forget to label things. Really important that you label things. You know, it's really easy to forget and you think, oh, I'll remember what they are, and I can't tell you the amount of times I haven't remembered what they are. So it's really, really important to relabel everything when you've potted it on. And also, like I said, it's also very important to water everything as well. Now, not today, but once the days start to warm up, you've got this thing where it's too cold for them to be outside all the time. So you've got to have them indoors some of the time, but the reality is if they don't get proper daylight on them, they're not going to grow properly. So when you get a nice day, I keep my seedlings in my conservatory here this time of year, and I'll lift them out into the main part of the garden so they get some proper sunlight, and then they'll grow properly, because if you don't, there's every chance that you might lose them because of damping off and various other reasons that kill plants off. But they really do need the daylight to keep them going. So I really hope that everyone has found this really, really useful, and you're not going to give up on something just because it's a little bit leggy. And I'd love to know what you're doing and how your seedlings are coming on.